Hello everyone, this is AndresRestart. It is the launch day for The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom. I've already gotten some time to enjoy the game, it's amazing, and I may even be planning to do a little bit of a live stream later tonight where we fool around and try to do things we're not supposed to do in the game. So if you're interested, check that out later tonight. But what I want to discuss currently, right now, is how I'm under the impression that we are overdue for a special Nintendo Direct presentation. And I think it's going to have a lot to do with Nintendo Switch 2. But before going forward, let me ask that if you do enjoy my content, to please subscribe and hit that notification bell. And now here is a brief message about today's sponsor. Snaxy is the ultimate Android gaming mobile app where you can earn incredible rewards from over 100,000 options while playing your favorite mobile games. And it also helps publishers acquire new users. Every gaming session with Snaxy is rewarding, with over 100,000 items like gift cards, game skins, and in-game coins. Integrate Snaxy into your routine for non-stop gaming, personalized recommendations, generous rewards, and frequent content updates. For more on the Snaxy app, check out the link in the description below. So the fact of the matter is, a lot of us have been thinking a Nintendo Switch 2 announcement is going to be happening soon. I was hopeful maybe it could happen as soon as this August, and then September seemed really likely because Nintendo moved up their presentations into August, but now that we are here, September 26th, the odds of a Switch 2 announcement happening this month seem really low. Maybe somehow they make an announcement this Sunday for a Direct on Monday, similar to how they handled the museum presentation in August. But this would be happening on the very literal last day of September, and that just doesn't seem to be the most likely scenario right now. However, many people are pulling for an October reveal, and there are a variety of things that seem to support the idea, and the fact of the matter is, my expectation has always been within this window between August and October ever since the reported delays earlier this year. So there's still plenty of optimism here. It could happen in October. And regardless of whether it's Switch 2 related or not, there does need to be some sort of Nintendo presentation. They are overdue. You can make the argument that we're overdue simply because we were expecting a Switch 2 announcement of significance earlier this year, but even not counting anything like that, looking at the current circumstances, there is something very fishy going on right now. No matter how you spin it, it's absolutely strange that Nintendo not only had a museum direct towards the end of August, but then 1 week later, even later into August, we got not only a partner showcase, but also it was included in a dual livestream of an Indie World showcase, things we were expecting to see in September. But what's stranger about this situation is that during this partner showcase, Nintendo did take the time to announce a December release, a Nintendo published December release, to be clear, and that was in Fitness Boxing 3. So they filled in a little bit of a gap, but we already know about one game coming out from Nintendo this next January, and that's Donkey Kong Country Returns HD. But what's weird about that game is that we got the release date for it all the way back in June. We don't get release dates for games that far in advance most of the time, and typically when we get release dates for Nintendo published titles for the beginning of the year is in a September Direct. And so looking at the partner showcase, while it may be the case that that was essentially the September Direct presentation even though it was in August, it didn't actually do something that we expect a lot of September Directs to do, which is give us release dates for games in the beginning of the next year. And so now that we're at the end of September, we're kind of in an unprecedented situation here. We're entering October with no known games for February or March. This hasn't happened throughout the entire extremely long Switch era. And even going back to 2016, there was a September Direct presentation. We haven't seen any sort of Nintendo Direct presentation in September. What's going on right now is very peculiar. There are certainly those that have a pessimism or a doubt that we're going to get a Switch 2 reveal this year, in part because of the holiday sales. We've discussed this before, I disagree with the notion, but the fact of the matter is, we're still looking at a situation where Nintendo needs to make some announcements. We don't know about the February or March game, and announcements like these need to be made. Now, there doesn't have to be a February game, there doesn't have to be a March game, but most of the time, Nintendo makes sure to have at least one Nintendo published title per month. In the aftermath of the June Direct this year, there's a lot of conversation on how there wasn't an August game or a December game, but what happened, Nintendo made sure to make announcements for these games in the coming months. We got Emio the Smiling Man in August, and Fitness Boxing 3 in December. So it might be the case that sometime in October, Nintendo will at least make an announcement for a February game. It might be something similar to how back in May, we got an announcement for the NES World Championships Edition, which, by the way, was also a very similar situation to back in 2020. In May, we still didn't know about the July game, and they gave us a very quick announcement of Paper Mario the Origami King for it to then come 2 months later. So Nintendo has done things like this in the past, but at this point in the year, we don't really see those types of announcements. Those types of announcements happen earlier in the year. What typically happens during this time of the year is that we get a Nintendo Direct presentation announcing things for the beginning of next year. And maybe if there was just one missing game, say for example maybe we knew about a March game but not a February game, or vice versa, I can more easily see a scenario where they just announce one more thing, or perhaps they just skip a month. But the fact that it's both is very strange. And here's something else that may put things into perspective a bit better. We got the release date for the January game in June, 7 months in advance. Yet here we are entering October, and we don't have a release date for the February game or the March game. There's a significant gap in time between announcing release dates for the game in January versus the games in February or March. It still hasn't happened. So there are some very odd things going on right now. And many watching are probably thinking, well, all of this has to do with the Switch 2. We may not have gotten the reveal in September, but that might just simply have to do with the fact that Nintendo was preparing things, and they're just taking a little bit more time to give us the announcement. But what some people have been entertaining the possibility of is perhaps a Metroid Prime 4 Beyond focused announcement. Maybe this game is going to be a big early title for next year before Switch 2. Firstly, let me just say, I don't believe this. I believe Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, the reason why it's even going to be a 2025 game is because it is going to be something that's closely tied to Switch 2. Yes, it's a Switch 1 game, but there will be some sort of Switch 2 promotion as well, a cross-gen title. But while I may think that, some people think Prime 4 will come out before Switch 2, and they are going to start to detail it with significance very soon. And maybe that's somehow a major game in February or March. And essentially, a very similar argument has been made with Pokemon Legends ZA. But you see, the issue with Pokemon Legends ZA is that over the last 3 years, we've had Pokemon Presents in August, and this time, they did not have one. So now that we're entering October, this idea of us getting a Pokemon Presents to give us news on Legends ZA for a release early next year has become increasingly more unlikely. Never mind the fact that looking at how they are branding all the different TCG sets that are coming out throughout the year, which typically gives us hints as to what sort of major games are coming out, there isn't really any significant evidence of something coming out in the first half. So the point I'm making here is that it seems very unlikely that Prime 4 or Pokemon Legends ZA are going to get this major influx of news on these particular games to come out early next year. They're coming out in 2025, those are the slated release dates for both these games, but I think they're coming out a little bit later into the year, once Switch 2 has come out. I mean, think about it. If Metroid Prime 4 Beyond was going to be a February or March release, or Pokemon Legends ZA, don't you think we would have seen them in a bigger Nintendo Direct at this point in the year? That hasn't happened. Going back to the Switch 2 angle though, if Switch 2 is coming out early next year, say sometime between late February and May, sometime in that window, we are getting very close to the point where Nintendo absolutely needs to start detailing at least the launch game. When it comes to major Nintendo releases, something like a Metroid Prime 4, something like a Pokemon Legends ZA, or perhaps something even bigger like a Super Mario Odyssey or a Breath of the Wild, or an Animal Crossing or a Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, these kinds of games, in general, there's usually about a 9-month window between that moment and release. In some cases, it's more. The point is that bigger games need a longer reveal to release window. Yeah, we see Nintendo do some smaller reveal to release windows, like for things like Fitness Boxing 3, Emio the Smiling Man, or even going back to the pandemic year with Super Mario 3D All-Stars. We do sometimes see these short turnarounds. But when it comes to their bigger budget releases, no. They make sure to have a longer window here. So if Switch 2 is indeed coming out during this period of time that we've been thinking, then they're going to have to start talking about at least the launch game, but perhaps even more. And then when you start accounting for other things like Metroid Prime 4, like Pokemon Legends ZA, whatever might be the game that comes out in this second month of Switch 2, or perhaps companion games that could be coming out around that time, it does seem like we need more than just a trailer like we had with Switch 1 when it comes to Switch 2. I do anticipate like some kind of shorter Nintendo Direct, a special Direct presentation having to do with Switch 2, and while I had an optimism that it might be happening on September 19th, given that it hasn't happened and now we're here enjoying Echoes of Wisdom, it looks like it would be happening just a little bit later, especially since we have heard from different places including Paul Gale that Nintendo did film something for a next generation console not too long ago, and going based off how they handled that back in 2016, we heard about the filming of the NX reveal in September, and the NX reveal happened October 20th. It could be the case we're looking at something very similar here, except in this case, supposedly the filming of the trailer happened even earlier, in August, which might lead us towards an early-ish October reveal. Of course, it could happen a little bit later, or maybe Nintendo is just being extremely quiet, and we're just not going to have that much to play in the beginning of next year. It's possible. I doubt it, but it's possible. Something I will mention before closing out here, though, is that recently Monster Hunter Wilds was announced for a February 28th release. Now, there's been a lot of speculation that Monster Hunter Wilds will be a part of the Switch 2 launch window, perhaps even within the first few days, or the first day, or at least the first few weeks, somewhere close to that. And if we are to see the Switch 2 reveal, let's say the week before Super Mario Party Jamboree, October 9th or 10th, that would be a little bit over a week before the reveal for Switch 1 back in 2016. The reason I bring this up is because Switch 1 was revealed October 20th with the trailer, and it came out March 3rd, 2017. A week before March 3rd would be the end of February, so if all things are equal here, and we do see a Switch 2 reveal in early October, perhaps that suggests a small possibility that Switch 2 launches late February, maybe including Monster Hunter Wilds as a launch title? This is just a possibility that I wanted to throw out there. And so really what I'm getting at here is that when you look at all the different circumstances surrounding Nintendo's release schedule and how they tend to announce games and what we expect for Switch 2, we're at a point where it's clear that a special presentation of some kind is missing. We are overdue. But what do you think? Let me know in the comments below. This is AndresRestart. Thank you so much for listening and watching, and I'll see you all really soon. Take care. Bye.